good thing. I mean, I'm sorry, Lee Nailingham is here. We'll talk about that in a minute. Also, our beloved leader, what's his name again?
Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham.
He's been working for 2 weeks. He's gone on holiday.
Of course he has.
Because he's been working flat out. He was only down on the cliffs of Dover the other day. He's apparently decided he needs a holiday. What's that all about?
Definitely needs a holiday. It's this left-wing work ethic, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's got to have your work-life balance.
And I'm hearing people already this morning as I was driving in saying, well, of course it's a very high-pressure job, and why should he not be like everybody else, and why should he not be able to take time off with his family? Well, I'll tell you why he can't be like everybody else. Because he's not like everybody else. He's the Prime Minister, and he gets things that other people don't get. For example, round-the-clock security.
Yep.
For example, no need to put his hand in his pocket to spend any money to do anything at all. For example, a pension for the rest of his life. For example, a very, very healthy income for the rest of his life. He never has to worry about it. And so to say that he should be like everybody else and get some time off and spend with his kids is complete and utter bollocks, I'm sorry.
Yep, very, very hard to disagree with any
If you don't want to be Prime Minister, don't be Prime Minister. But if you do want to be Prime Minister, don't do it for 2 weeks and then go on bleeding holiday. Right? Don't you think?
I can't disagree with any of that.
We've got a poll which says, where has Andy Burnham gone on holiday? Up to north, down south, Manchester, or up his own arse? Amazingly, 74% of you think he's gone up his own arse, which tells you all you need to know about why Andy Burnham is not as popular as he thinks he is.
He's definitely not as popular as you think he is. Although saying that, it's working. It's working on a section of the population who don't pay that much attention to the news. Well,
you say it's working, right? But here's what I think. I think that there is a complete and utter kind of, malfeasance going on, which is all part of the sort of the Westminster bubble, if you like, where basically people tell you something's good, right? And then they do a poll which confirms that what they've told you is good. And then the poll confirms that what they told you was good is exactly what people think. And so they're kind of manipulating it, the whole kind of message behind the meaning. And before you know where you are, you've suddenly got a movement, and you've suddenly gone, blimey, like the way that they've sold us Manchester, for example, right? As well as I do, that there are statistics and damn statistics, right? And the truth. What we know is that we've got a new Manchester mayor, who I call Kevin, although his name is what is it?
Bev, isn't it?
Ken, whatever. Anyway, she has won on 12% of the vote. 12% of the people who voted in Manchester, who could have voted in Manchester, voted for Labour. Right? Even when they decided to have a mayoral election before Andy Burnham actually won it, it was a very small proportion of the population, right? So first of all, so if you were to take that as a whole, if you were to actually analyse what it is that's happened in Manchester, first of all, the people of Manchester didn't really want to have a mayor,
correct?
Right? But they got one anyway. They got Andy Burnham, right? Andy Burnham then went and told them all what a great job he was doing. He then decided that he wanted to be Prime Minister. So he decided to tell somebody in Makerfield to get the hell out of the way so that he could stand there and then get himself into Parliament and then get himself into Downing Street, all orchestrated by the Labour Party machine, right? Then this woman, Kev, comes in and apparently won on a very, very small matter of votes. 25% of the population voted, right? And they're calling it a great victory for Labour. They lost 150,000 votes, right, from the last time around. The Reform Party gained 100,000 votes. And apparently this is a great victory for Labour. And so they give you this whole load of old crap, let's face it, and try and convince you of something that's true. And then suddenly everybody goes, oh, he's doing quite a good job, isn't he?
Yeah,
Somebody actually asked old Kev, right, when he won in Manchester, the path has now been created. I watched this on the BBC. A path has now been created. Do you see yourself in a few years' time being the Prime Minister of Britain? Because that's what Andy Burnham did. And I went, sorry? Right? It's just ridiculous. So you've got to be careful not to fall for the narrative, which is that, it's all going really well, because it's not.
So I fully agree with everything you've just said. However, you've got to remember, if we take your audience who are incredibly well informed, the average person doesn't watch the news. They see one or two clips on TikTok. Like my stepmother, who voted for reform, in the family group chat over the weekend.
In Manchester?
No, voted for reform here.
Just generally,
in London, but just generally. but who doesn't pay much attention to politics at all. Was like, oh, this Andy Bird, she's sharing clips in the family group chat purely because she doesn't watch any news.
Saying she thinks she's doing a good job?
Just purely from TikTok. Purely based on TikTok. Oh, look, he's just announcing stuff for schools.
Well, doesn't that tell you that people are really bloody stupid then?
And that is my point, because we talk about we talk about the 25% that voted. The real question we should be asking is, why does 75% not feel the need to come out and vote? And one of the things that we talk about a lot is, well, what are our politicians doing? What are our political parties doing? When you consider that we had every political party in the country run in Manchester, and not a single one of them could make an interesting enough argument to get at least half of the people to come out and vote. That is the real issue. And I'll tell you why. Because if you look at if you put everybody's leaflets side by side, took off all the names, all of the hyperbole, they all say, we're going to hire more police. We want to build more homes. We're going to grow the whole economy. Let's fix our high street. It's all become meaningless drivel.
Yeah.
And so we can, on the one hand, we can sit here and we can lament, and I agree with everything you've said. On the other hand, we need to start asking some questions around why our politics has become this way. And if you actually want to get people to come out, you need to give them. And I say this as someone who historically, prior to 2024, voted once in 22 years.
But isn't there also an issue here with the people who don't vote? Isn't it their fault? And shouldn't they be coming out to vote?
But again,
how is it the politicians don't care, right? As long as they can win, they don't give a monkey's how many people vote for them. What they want you to do is to vote for them. So as long as they're winning, they are not interested in the low turnout.
But on the low turnout, there's only one party that wins, and they want to keep it that way.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's not in their interest to make it better. It's in the people's interest to get out and vote.
But the other political parties then have to provide them with an option. So as someone who's never voted Labour in my life, right, but grew up in East London where Labour run supreme, but even me, from the age of 18 to 40, I voted once, which was to get rid of Gordon Brown, right? But other than that, I'd never felt the urge, the need, and no one had ever spoken to me with an argument that resonated to get me to want to go out and change. So we can also point fingers at that, but ultimately, if we're, as political parties, if I'm a political party and I'm sat here and going, well, why aren't these people coming out to vote? Well, they're wrong. Clearly it's their fault. No, I didn't make there needs to be an accountability and ownership. And what I want to see from our politicians and our political parties is getting back to actually having substance for local people, right? If you look at the reason the Lib Dems do so well, for example, and I'm no fan of the Lib Dems by any means, but one of the reasons the Lib Dems do so well is because they campaign on almost entirely local issues in the areas where they've got a foothold.
Well, no, the reason the Lib Dems do well is because they've worked out how to win in areas where they can be particularly high profile.
But they also built that over time.
But what they don't do is convert that win into anything other than a waste of space.
Yeah,
because they don't actually believe in anything, right? So what they're good at is winning elections in places where they can identify they can win.
Correct, but the reason they will win locally in an area where, again, they are the party of like the nice little village off in the countryside that I'm never going to vote for. But the reason they do that is because they run almost entirely locally on that church at the bottom of your road. We're going to fix the roof.
Yeah, except they don't though.
Well, they don't do it, and people still vote for them regardless. But it's because they offer that specific, tailored local offering. And that's what political parties need to get back to. Like if we take the London mayoral campaign that's coming up in 2 years' time, again, everyone's talking about these big national issues.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, the London mayor campaign and the Manchester mayor campaign, I don't know anyone who actually votes in it who voted for the person that won. I don't know anyone that's ever voted for Sadiq Khan.
Correct.
Sadiq Khan keeps winning, right?
He does.
So what does that tell you? He's either fixing the vote in some way, shape or form by getting 50,000 people in every flat in Tower Hamlets to put in 50,000 postal votes, or he's fixing it in some other way. But he's fixing it some other way because he's not actually, what they've done very cleverly in the Labour government and the Labour movement is that they've identified that there are block groups of people, i.e. Muslims, who can vote in a block. And that's how they win.
I mean, it's two very specific...
That's how they win.
Yeah, and it's two very specific segments within that community, the Bangladeshi and the Pakistani community, that are that block vote. But again, you then go back to the fact that London is only 15% Muslim. It's hard, I forget that sometimes, living in Tower Hamlets, but it's only 15% Muslim. So there's 85% of people that are not Muslim.
Yeah.
that are predominantly not voting.
Yeah, but if the 15% of people who are Muslim vote,
so you need
then you know that is a much bigger number in a way. I bet you, if you were to do an analysis of the number of people who voted and how many,
they would make up a significantly larger percentage.
It would be bigger than 15% of people who voted who were Muslim, wouldn't it?
It would. Right? It would be, but again,
because they vote as a bloc.
Yeah. But then why are the political I didn't vote in the 2024 mayoral election, even though I don't like Sadiq Khan.
Yeah.
Because there's no one else for me to vote for, so I chose not to vote. Right, and that's not a.
So you didn't like the Tory choice. I
didn't like the Tory choice. I didn't like any of the other choices. I looked at them all and went, because none of them were talking about specific problems to Londoners.
Yeah.
You know, the Tories were doing their generic Tory
Tory stuff. Wouldn't you just vote to stop Sadiq Khan getting in, though?
Well, again, no. I'd vote for someone who actually is going to do something for London. Like, you could give me something to vote for.
Yeah.
And most people I know in East London who don't vote and whatever else, who all, for example, have sympathies towards what reforms say. But even if, and not to criticise reform for London, but again, they campaigned in May entirely on immigration for a local council election. Right, like what are you doing?
Yeah,
right. So,
well, a lot of people think that's a big deal in London.
Yeah, well, again, but most Londoners don't. Right, and that's the thing. And you know me, I'm fully on board with the detain, deport, fix immigration. Agree with the policy nationally. But if you're going around Tower Hamlets, for example, in my area, the only reason I voted is because I knew the candidate. But if you're going around Tower Hamlets and handing me a leaflet going, we're going to stop the boats, I'm like, yeah, dude, okay, yes, fully agree. We can't get our bins collected. There's crime everywhere. There's more immediate pressing concerns. And in London, you're not going to win on a message of immigration, right? It doesn't mean we don't fix immigration.
I don't get that. I don't get that at all. Disagree with you completely. Right. Because surely immigration is the problem London's got because of immigration. The reason that you can't get your bins emptied, the reason that you can't, park your car, the reason that you keep getting robbed, the reason that you keep getting your watch stolen and your bike nicked and your car broken into is because of immigration. Yeah,
but that's not going to resonate with a.
Well, why not?
Because most of the city now are immigrants, right? They're immigrants. Right, or descended from immigrants.
Well, but most immigrants that I know who have come here legally and who have built a business or have done something decent with their lives do not want illegal immigration.
Correct.
So why does that not appeal to them then?
Because it's a council policy. It's not a council policy. The council can't do anything about it.
Well, they could. They could just say, if you're an illegal immigrant, you can't stay here.
Well, they can't do that legally.
Yeah, well, that's the problem.
And that's the thing. And so when you get into all of this, and it's not that that's not a policy. And when you're running on the GE, that should be the general election, that should be front and centre. But when, if, for example, if Layla runs her campaign on immigration for the Mayor of London, I bet you a steak dinner she doesn't finish fourth.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's probably right.
So and that's where parties need to get smarter.
The idea that Andy Burnham has somehow managed to convince people in this country that he's a good leader is ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. But again,
if that's where we are, then there's no hope for anybody.
No, there is hope. It's just you've got to be able to then articulate a different argument.
Well, no, if he's convincing people by doing ridiculous video TikToks on, this is what I call a cob, this is what I call a BAM or a barn or whatever the hell it was. If that's really the level of people's intellectual capability, then we're finished as a nation. And if people are that bloody stupid, quite frankly, we might as well shove them all into the sea and start again, right?
We'll get that on the campaign poster, yeah. But it's but that is where the electorate are broadly, not that they're swayed by a video of a man eating some bread.
Well, apparently they are.
But no, but
that's what you're telling me.
No,
that's what Pooch is telling me. Pooch is telling me he's hearing from people saying, "Oh yeah, we think he's doing all right."
Yeah, but it's not just the video of the bread. It's combined with him announcing a new policy every other day. He's driving the cycle.
But he's not announcing new policy every other day. Well, he's announcing a lot of bollocks every other day.
No, but me and you know this. All of the viewers on this show know this. The average person who doesn't watch the news doesn't know that.
Well, how stupid are they?
Well, but
are we literally living in a land full of stupid people?
Well,
is that where we
uninformed is the word I would choose to use.
Not uninformed. They shouldn't be uninformed. But stupid is the word I would use.
But look at the viewing figures of the news. Like you said, total news viewership in a day is 1 to 2 million of a population.
Nobody watches the news anymore.
Exactly.
Right. So they watch TikTok. They watch Instagram. They watch YouTube if they're sensible, and they watch these kind of shows.
Definitely.
But if people who give answers to polling companies, which I've never done, I don't know if you've ever been asked a question by a polling company. I don't know anyone who's ever been asked a question by a polling company. But if they say that they are in favour of what Andy Burnham is doing, then I'm afraid we might as well just tear it all up and burn the place to the ground.
Well,
seriously.
We definitely need a complete reset of how we run the country. I'll agree with that, right? But it does go into that point of the technical, deep, nuanced arguments around, like this whole Restore v Reform thing, for example. Average voter hasn't got a clue what's going on.
Yeah.
Doesn't know who Restore are, doesn't know who, half the people in Reform are. They know Nigel.
They know who Nigel Farage is,
right. But they couldn't, my dad watches the news every day, and he couldn't tell you who Andrew Rosendale is, for example.
No.
I mean, Andrew's a very good MP, but he couldn't tell you who he is just because he's not there. Right?
I get that. I get that, and that's why all of this kind of attack policy on Farage and on Reform has cut through to ordinary people, because it's relentless. Because if you pick up a newspaper every single day, and every single day there's yet another story about something, even though the story is actually not really up to much.
Exactly.
People get an opinion on the basis that, they keep writing about them and there must be something to it.
Well, that's it. I mean, the entire attack on Nigel amounts to man didn't fill out form correctly.
Right.
It's essentially the argument.
And man has a few houses, man has some money, man has, some dodgy friends, man is a bit rich and maybe we shouldn't trust him. It's a terrible thing about this British kind of way of life that we have, where you don't admire people who have done well for themselves. Instead, you do them down. You think they're up to no good. They can't be wealthy unless they've done something wrong. There's something very, very wrong with this country and the way that people think. And it's time we changed it.
We definitely need to change it.
And if Andy Burnham is the answer, it's a bloody stupid question.
Well, and then it's on us to make sure.
I mean, look at what we've got here. Killers but not rapists to be given early release, right?
Yep.
PC Harper's widow, who's the woman who was married for 1 month to a police officer who was dragged for a mile underneath a car, right?
It's horrible.
A horrible situation. She is calling the decision a betrayal,
it is.
Right? Andy Burnham says that he's not going to let rapists out because, of course, that would cause anger, anxiety and distress. So, therefore, he's going to let murderers out instead.
Yep, of course he is.
Why are they letting anybody out?
Of course he is, because that is what Labour do. I tell you what, there was a point in 2024, after the general election, when Keir Starmer won, where I think it lasted for about 72 hours, maybe 48 hours, where I went, maybe they're not going to be as bad this time. And then there was the story then about they already planned to release the criminals out earlier. It's like, I remember this. This is what Labour do. They do it every time. And you sit there, we've got there's a simple solution, right? We have...
The simple solution is don't let them out.
Don't let them out, and do what Anne Widdecombe once did. We didn't have enough prison space. She rented a prison boat.
Yeah.
Right? There are so many other things that can be done. They will tell you this is not a choice. They have no choice. They have to release these people early. They have choices. They're
that is absolute rubbish.
To release
Complete
these
rubbish.
people early.
Complete rubbish.
Exactly.
But of course, the problem is the Tories not holding them to account.
They won't hold them to account because the Tories did the exact same thing.
Reform have been sort of, diverted away because of all the nonsense that's been, laid at their front door, if you like. And, in the end, the only place where you can get any kind of kickback is in the newspapers, but the newspapers, unfortunately, are not doing their job either. The Daily Mail's gone this morning with this terrible story from Greece, where an Afghan asylum seeker who wed a US woman after arriving in Greece has now been arrested for killing a UK woman, a missionary, who was found in a suitcase, right? Who was helping him as a volunteer.
Yep.
That's the world we now live in.
That is the world we now live in. Suicidal empathy.
What we know is that basically we have got a world infested with people like Afghan refugees, Moroccans marauding over borders down in northern Africa there, scumbags coming here on small boats and big boats, committing crime, making people's lives a misery, and all we get is Andy Burnham, I'm going to go on holiday.
Yep, he's going to go on holiday. He's a part-time Prime Minister.
Absolute disgrace.
We all know he's not up to the job. We need to make the argument so that others realise he's not up to the job. In terms of the boats, I mean, I'm a big fan of Reform's announcement yesterday for the...
but again, as soon as they announce it, they get completely castigated by all and sundry who say, well, you can't do it.
Well, I don't think
it can't be done.
And it can be done. One of the things that I realised, having lived on the other side of the world and then come back, we still put so much emphasis on this in this country on terms like soft power.
Yeah.
right? The reality is the world doesn't run on soft power. The world runs on hard power.
Exactly.
The solution to this is very simple. We're going to take the boats, we're going to tow them back to France, and I don't think the French are going to stop us.
No, I don't think so either.
And you know what? If they want to try and stop us, let them try.
Yeah.
Right? But at some point, we need to man up and just do it. Right? Because otherwise, you can't sit there, well, what are we going to do? Well, we're just going to give them billions of pounds more, and they're saying they're going to try and stop them, right?
Right? I mean, he was down there, standing on the cliffs of Dover, saying he's going to be relentless. He's going to give them a load more money. And we've got the nowhere photographer, actually, who's going to go over there. And he's over there today, hopefully. And we're going to find out maybe in the next couple of days who these new enforcement officers are, who are going to, and what they're going to do. They're not going to do anything.
They're probably pumping up the boats for them, right? Like it's we're at that stage where nothing would surprise me anymore. It needs a firm hand, and there was great research done in Australia actually when they stopped the boats, and what they found is that the only thing that actually deterred was towing the boats back. So everything else, they did everything else in Australia when they stopped towing the boats back, but did everything else, the offshore processing, all of the other stuff everyone talks about, didn't deter, because people were like, well, as soon as we get there, we can try and game the legal system, and we've got a chance because we're there. Yeah. But if you did nothing else except just tow the boats back, stopped.
Of course it does.
That is the only thing that will work.
Well, the two things that will stop it is that, one, you don't let them come here in the first place, and two, when they do come here, you immediately kick them out and you say, you will never ever be able to stay here. What you don't do is give them a house, give them a place to stay, give them a room in a hotel, give them a dressing gown, and give them a pizza.
Exactly.
You know, that all has to stop.
Right.
And that is the only way to stop it.
And these lunatics that claim this stuff is racist. I mean, you know, are the Chinese racist? Are the Japanese racist? Are the Singaporeans racist? Are the Saudis racist?
We should all be racist. Being racist is not a bad thing, right? It's not a bad thing. You know, it's been misnamed as something which is apparently a bad thing. But you can be racist against people coming to your country from other countries where they kill people and where they rape children. And I think it's perfectly legitimate to be racist against people like that, because they shouldn't be coming here. Simple.
I think the word you'd be looking for there is xenophobic, not racist. But yes.
I don't think you should be telling me what word I should be looking for, to be honest.
But I get.
Otherwise, I have to throw you out of the room as well. But, you know, anyway, listen, here we are. I'm pissed off that Andy Burnham's decided to go on holiday after 2 weeks of running the country into the ground even more and wasting even more money than we knew that we had in the first place.
Yeah, of course.
He should not be going on holiday.
He should not.
He should not be attempting to sort of spend time with his family. If he wanted to be bloody Prime Minister or he wanted to be spending his summer with his family, he should have made a choice.
Yep, absolutely.
You can't do both.
And again, that is politicians to a T, right? They all want the title. They all want the job.
He wants the number 10 North. He wants the Range Rovers. He wants the planes. He wants the trains. He wants the attention. And now he wants to have time off. Well, I'm sorry, mate. You can't have any time off.
That's it. And none of them want the responsibility. None of them want the accountability. Ultimately, leadership is accountability. You were in charge. You run the country. Yeah. Like, there is no time off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It can't happen. Can't happen. Anyway, Lee, this is good to see you.
Always good to see you.
Nice to see you. Lee Nailingham there telling us all about what is